Mall of America. For more than 30 years, it has been a retail leader and an international destination, and it remains the largest mall in the U.S. Not to mention, it welcomes millions of guests from around the world. It's huge, but it's also so much more. In this podcast, you're going to hear the real stories of how it started and why it continues to thrive. You'll hear about challenges we faced along the way and what you can learn from them. We will feature guests and experts from all walks of life and business, and along the way, you'll laugh, learn, and maybe even change the way you look at things. So if you're a fan of the mall, a brand new visitor, an entrepreneur, or a dreamer, prepare to dive deep into so much more. This podcast is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau.
And welcome to another edition of So Much More, a Mall of America podcast conversation. I'm excited today about our topic, which is really fun, and I'm excited for my co-host and our guest today. First of all, our guest, John Schouveller, is our maintenance manager. He's been at Mall of America about 8 years now, and he oversees the team that handles our topic, much of what we're talking about today, which is preparing for the holiday season. And of course, joined by Chris Gropp, our VP of Experiential and Entertainment, and I'm Dan Jasper, SVP MOA Press. John, welcome to the conversation. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for bringing me in. Glad to be here.
Reluctantly, no.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
He says with a smile.
I was voluntold. No.
I love it. So we're going to talk about everything that we do for the holidays. This is a big building, 5.6 million square feet, right? There's a lot to do here, and a lot of our decor is oversized, and we do some really unique things as well. These, quite honestly, are the two experts along with their teams that make all of this happen. So I'm going to let you do most of the storytelling today. But first, let's just run by some numbers, John, kind of a quick answer and question. How many twinkle lights do we have?
Total lights, 136,000 lights.
They're just the twinkle ones hanging in the mall.
That's just inside the building.
And how many large ornaments do we have?
Well, and see, now you're going to make me look at my stat sheet
Yes,
and
I am.
actually read it here. Where'd that go?
It's 22.
Thank you.
Right down, we're down at the bottom.
Right there. Large ornaments, 22. Thanks for pointing that out.
And they're great. They're 6 foot and 8 foot in diameter, and it takes an entire crew. We'll get into you explaining how they get installed and stuff.
Okay.
I know last night the team was here, including you guys and your team members, putting up our enchanted snowflake experience. How many snowflakes and how big are they?
12 snowflakes.
Yes.
Largest one, I believe, is 12 feet from end to end. I don't remember how small the smallest one is.
I think 4. I think
That
we
sounds
did,
right. Yeah.
4, 8, and 12.
Oh.
And from what I understand, they put them up in record time last night. What used to take up to 3-4 nights went up in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Super happy with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. And how many, we have a lot of holiday trees, Christmas trees throughout the property. In the mall areas, how many Christmas trees do we have?
We have over 200 of them, 225 to be specific.
And in Nickelodeon Universe?
That, Dan, you read this quicker than I did. 18 of the themed trees in Nickelodeon Universe.
That's awesome. And we have Festival of Trees this year again. Do you know how many trees are in that this year, Chris?
There's going to be 100 trees in there.
100 trees
Yes.
just in that one nonprofit display
Correct.
area.
Doubled in size from last year.
That's fantastic. So before we kind of get into this and talk about the transformation of the mall, I'm just curious, when we have guests on the podcast, they usually don't bring a big binder with them.
I know.
What is this all about, John?
So this is the big book of Christmas, as we discussed earlier before this, the Bible, so to speak. And in this has all of the holiday decor for the whole mall. I'll kind of page through it here, and it's an absolute mess.
For our listeners, I can confirm it is an absolute
It is
mess.
a mess. Blueprints and all kinds of drawings that show locations, where things go, the size of them, which way they face.
How far back does this date?
That's a good question. I see a date right here back to 2004 on this particular piece of paper.
So it likely goes back the entire 30 years of Mall of America, you think?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I would say that's probably, some things are probably still in here from the original days.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you and your team work with this to put everything up throughout the mall, correct?
Yep. Clayton Omberg, who is our supervisor, does 99% of this, and honestly, he probably doesn't even open the book anymore. We just talked this morning, he's been doing holiday setup this is his 17th year.
Oh, wow.
So,
Fantastic.
and he is the Christmas guy as far as I'm concerned for them all.
Oh, that's fantastic. And he does a great job. The entire team.
Yeah. He's an amazing resource, super passionate. I think, kind of like doesn't want to act like he's excited, but is always very excited.
I love
so,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really fun to work with him on this stuff.
He is. The whole team, it's fun to work with. And we really do transform. I mean, I think of some other brands. I'm going to just talk about a couple other brands quickly because I think it's important. One of my favorite brands is Disney. I love going down to Disney World and seeing how it feels like they do it overnight. I know they don't do it overnight, but they really transform that and you get into the spirit. Any other brands that you guys look to that you think do a really good job with holiday decor?
For me, same vein as Universal. Universal in the past few years has really upped their holiday game. They've owned, I think, Halloween more than Disney for a long time with Universal Horror Nights, and have really spent a lot of time transitioning their properties, not just the parks, but the hotels, really nicely, really all themed to the resorts. I'm really liking what Universal's been doing. Okay. But even the cruise lines offering holiday cruises. There's people like us that can't get enough, and we have a short time frame to enjoy as much of the holidays as they can. So it is important to do those quick transformations. But Disney, Universal, Princess Cruise Lines, they do it really well.
They really do. John, any brands that you can think of?
I knew you were going to ask that. No, because I don't go anywhere, because this is the only place that matters to me. Holiday, as you know, takes up pretty much all of our time here. So in the winter, we those of us that are taking care of it, this is it. This is all that matters.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. Thank you. When do you and the team start decorating for the holidays?
We started last night, would have been the first night that the team started. The supervisor, Clayton, went on nights last week, and he did prep for some of it. So it's about a 4-week ordeal to take care of it.
Okay. So really, from as soon as Halloween's over, we start going, essentially, because we want it to look awesome by the time Black Friday is here, correct?
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful. What and how many people on the team that sets up the bulk of the things in place?
There's 5 people on that team that work 5 nights a week for 4 weeks straight to try and get everything up and ready to go.
Just to make, and they're not the only ones. I mean, they move all the big stuff into place, correct?
Yep.
But there's other people. Who else helps with this?
I was going to say a lot of that is the common area stuff, but we have contractors that we work on for the 44-foot trees in the rotunda.
Yeah.
I always call them greens, but that's not right. Landscaping team.
Yep,
they do a lot of work transitioning as well.
How many poinsettias? I mean, thousands of poinsettias, right?
Oh, you had to ask me that. I have absolutely no idea.
No,
I have a spreadsheet in my computer that says that.
Over the season, for sure, it's thousands.
Yes,
it's thousands, and it's gorgeous, right? We do so many things here at Mall of America that make you feel festive and alive. And quite honestly, outside, I saw them 6 weeks ago putting lights on all of our exterior trees, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so they start well ahead of time, and when people drive up to the mall, it's an awesome feel. So you said we have like 265 or something mall trees throughout Mall of America. Tell me about tree fluffing.
Tree fluffing.
It's coming up in a couple of days. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to fluff trees. That came up because when we put those trees out, they've been in storage. They get kind of packed together to take up less room, and they're not in the best shape when we bring them out, so we have to clean them and get them in place, and the team works to get them in place. And it was organized a few years ago. I believe our executive VP was the one that came up with the idea to kind of involve people that aren't usually involved, people in the office towers, and they kind of make an event out of it. We bring out a bunch of ladders and get them set in place. They buy cookies and juice and everything, and everybody goes around and just straightens out the trees, cleans them up, and makes them look the way we want them to look for the guests, so everything looks nice.
And it really is, it's a fun morning to spend with the teams doing it. I don't know that everybody would use that adjective, but I feel like it's a very fun morning.
I do too.
And it's true, this time of year, we do get to work shoulder to shoulder with more folks that we don't often see, and that really kind of kicks off that real collaboration of we're all out here doing the best we can to put on a show for the guests. So. I do enjoy the tree fluffing event. It's super fun.
I do too. I think it's really fun, quite honestly. And some people wear ugly holiday sweaters, and I know my team. Whenever we do it, someone has holiday music on their phone because we all have our own area to do.
Yep.
And it's just really a fun event, and I love it because the critics walk, but not the critics, but our ambassadors walk by, the mall walkers, right? And they'll walk by, and first of all, they're carrying a cup of coffee and they're having fun, but they'll kind of commentate on this one's not straight. You got to kind of get this one straight, or you missed this side over here. Have you ever had good experiences there, fun ones?
Oh yeah, and then I offer them the ladder and some gloves, and they keep walking.
Yeah.
So
Don't stop. You're right. It is fun. The cool thing about the mall walkers, I mean, it's fun when they walk by, is they really take ownership in this place. They want it to look really nice.
Yes,
right?
they do.
They do tend to point out things that are wrong, mainly because they want it to be really nice, right? This is kind of their home.
They often will stop me or any of my team members if they see something wrong that they feel needs to be addressed, and they'll let us know.
Yep.
And it's just in general because I think they feel at home here.
Yeah.
Because they're here every day.
They feel good about it.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging part of decorating the mall for the holidays for your team specifically? And then I want to go into a couple of your areas too.
I think the biggest challenge is just the fact that we take half of our staff and they move the night shift for that. So that leaves only with half the staff during our regular hours. So that's a little tasking sometimes if things get a little crazy, just because you literally have half your staff to do the job. You usually have a lot. So keeping up with events, as I understand, I think we have more events going on this year than we've ever had.
sorry about that, but that is accurate.
But that
Yes.
is 100% your fault.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most challenging thing is, all the event setups and teardowns to be able to keep up with that with the limited amount of staff for that month during setup and teardown.
So that's really interesting to understand is your team is not specifically holiday. They have a full-time job that they're in charge of doing all this other stuff.
Yep.
And then we layer in holiday, and you have to take half your team just to focus there.
That's correct, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, part of it is there's a great institutional knowledge with people like John and Clayton who need to be on site to oversee these things, especially if there's new team members that haven't done it before. I mean, you mentioned last night somehow we got all 12 snowflakes up in record time. I honestly thought it was going to take 2 or 3 nights. Just because, historically that's the way it's been, but that's awesome to have that kind of expertise on site.
Tell me a little bit about the snowflakes. For those who've never seen them, where they're located and what makes them special.
Sure. We use the atrium for a lot of public art and art pieces, and this was a project that came up years ago. We wanted something to fill that space in the atrium that wasn't just holiday, but seasonal, so that way it could be active a little bit longer because the winters are long here in Minnesota. Yep. So the Enchanted Snowflake experience came from that, but it's 12 aluminum sculpted snowflakes. We worked with Quantum and Adirondack Studios to design and implement these pieces. They all have lighting capabilities, so we have pre-programmed holiday light shows that trigger every half hour. This year it'll be starting November 11th. It's just a fun way to engage audiences in the space. Of course, some of the tenants up on level 3 get a little sick of hearing the same songs over and over, but that's why we have the flexibility to add more shows year after year and just build that roster of holiday songs. So it's a nice passive art piece for a couple months of the year, but when it's active for holiday, it's really special.
It brings cheer. I love it.
Absolutely.
And located right next to that in the atrium is a very special area called the Candy Cane Institute. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what that is?
Yeah, Candy Cane Institute was a big deal for us. I've been working on holidays since I started here 10 years ago and been working to change the Santa experience in general over time. And we've had some small progressions, but really this was an opportunity to change it entirely. As a kid growing up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, going to the local mall, standing in the people corral, waiting for your chance to see Santa, everybody's watching you, and then you have this moment where you sit on a stranger's lap and whisper a secret into their ear. It's ultimately kind of weird and creepy, and then it's over.
When you think about it,
and,
I'm just saying.
And
right?
I working with Lori from construction and our other teams really wanted to change that so it felt more honest and we could engage with guests in a different way. Well, when the pandemic hit, we had a real opportunity to change things up, and it was actually over a virtual happy hour with my friend Matt Kent, who was with Scenario at the time. He had used to work with Hotop Creative, and Gary Wachanski from Hotop had this idea for Candy Cane Institute, which was a scalable activation, but more about elves doing holiday research. And the piece that was missing for me was a meet and greet with Santa. So I worked with Gary, who, to his credit, has never been precious about the IP that they created, and he really wanted this to work for us. So we tailor-made the Candy Cane Institute to fit our needs, where now in my opinion, it is the best visits with Santa anywhere, because families get to choose how they play in the space with our elves. Whatever your level of comfort is, that's how you get to meet Santa and Mrs. Claus and the elves and have your experience. And it's bursting with magic and cheer. It's totally fantastic.
So kids and adults still get to meet Mr. and Mrs. Santa and Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
But in a way that's fun and unusual and not that formulaic.
Absolutely.
Visit.
This is a guided tour through a research lab. The elves have been researching holidays for years, and they kind of nailed it in the 70s. And they kind of rested on their laurels, and then they pop up in the modern world, and they're going, all right, what makes the holidays so special? We've got things to compete with, superhero movies and social media. How are families doing these things? So the elves convinced Santa to set up a market research institute at Mall of America to talk to families about what make the holidays so special. They're well-meaning, they're well-intentioned, but they get a lot of it wrong. And their manager is the head elf, and he needs to check up on their work and see how they're doing. So it really is a fun way for families and guests to engage with.
It's awesome.
Yep, the lore of
I've
Santa.
heard our head elf is pretty awesome. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not going to go any further. Not going to say anything else. But that's what I've heard.
It's a very nice white beard you have. I wanted to mention that, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Creepiest Santa memory for you. We're just going to throw it out there.
Creepiest Santa memory. I don't know that I have. I don't really remember going to see Santa.
You just blocked it out.
Yeah, I think I remember going to see Santa, I believe, at a store on Rice Street when I was a kid. I think it was a Sears store, because back then it was all the department stores had Sears.
Or Montgomery Ward.
And honestly, I don't think I ever sat on Santa's lap. I think I was one of those kids that once I got up there in line, and like you say, all of a sudden everything changes once you're in line, and I didn't want to be in front of people, and I don't think I ever actually sat on Santa's lap.
That's cool. And that's a testament to why we're doing this, right? How about you? Any creepy...
I mean, again, it was a high-pressure scenario, and I feel like once I got involved with this, I wouldn't even say it was creepy, but just how mystifying it was that some Santas really just didn't understand where to meet the guests. Yeah. And we're stuck in an old pattern, in an archaic way of thinking. And no disrespect to anybody in that profession, but you have a banger of a job. Yeah. And you should be able to crush it every time.
It's awesome.
People are coming to you ready to have fun.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about brushing teeth.
No.
Let's have a little bit more fun than that. Yeah, I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
I agree. I just want to hit on a couple other topics really quick. Festival of Trees, we started it last year. There's 100 trees you already mentioned. You were part of that, and you saw it, and you experienced it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a cool event. It's nice to go through. We were talking earlier, one of the vendors that I work with here at the mall actually came in this year, and they're excited to do it because I think that companies make it a team member building thing. Yeah. When I walked through it last year, I'm not a holiday guy myself, but I thought it was pretty cool to see all the different companies that were there. I remember some of the sports facilities from the area that had trees. So for people that are bidding on those trees, they're getting a lot of what they really want out of it.
It's cool. And 100 trees, and just for our listeners to know, you can buy a raffle ticket to win all the ornaments and prizes on that specific tree. So if it's the Minnesota Vikings, the Twins, a brand that's in Mall of America, whatever it is, and a lot of them had gift cards or signed autographed memorabilia, that stuff like that. It's pretty fun to kind of have that opportunity. Yeah. We do another really cool activation here at Mall of America that both of your teams are involved with, but I think it was your idea originally, which is transforming our log chute into...
The Yule log chute.
The Yule log. Yes. Tell me about this, please.
Being that the log chute, it's a Minnesota favorite. Our guests love the log chute. And because it's a non-specific IP, we have the opportunity to do essentially whatever we want with it. So I worked with my internal team, and it was actually Mary Ryan. Her sister came up with the idea of the name of the Yule log chute and transitioning it. So what we did, it was sparked because one of our team members found the patterns and forms for Paul Bunyan's outfit, the 27-foot tall animatronic Paul Bunyan. So I reached out to local designer Christopher Straub to see if he'd be interested in making an ugly sweater for Paul. No hesitation, he said yes. And every year this gets more and more elaborate. the way that we decorate that attraction, change over the music. We play the Squirrel Nut Zippers holiday music in there, which fits the theme of the attraction perfectly. There's snowfall, there's the different outfits on characters, and it's actually, the team has such a blast doing it. And the park maintenance team has really gotten behind it and been very supportive. Once they realized, too, we would be doing the bulk of the work and just trying to stay out of their way. Because I feel like I can hear their eyes roll back in their head every time I come walking, like, we have an idea. Like, no. But truly, I appreciate the work. Yes, and it's so much fun. It's really a ton.
I just want to ask a couple of quick questions, if I may, before we end up this episode, which is, what's one of the biggest lessons learned or challenges you and your team have experienced with holiday decor? Anything ever go wrong, or what's one of the biggest obstacles, or maybe the first time you did something, ooh, we could have done it differently?
I think every year we learn something different. For example, the team being able last night to set up all the snowflakes in one night. If I remember right, the first year we did that, it took 5 nights.
It did.
Wow.
It was our team, it was the contractor, it was Quantum that helped out with the show, and it was several nights. And I think every year you just learn something new. For the last 4 years, every time I talk to Clayton and his team, they do the whole entire setup a little bit faster every time. Yes, it usually takes about a month, but sometimes they finish in 3 weeks. Sometimes it's 3.5 weeks. Some things always go wrong, but for the most part, every year for something that goes wrong, they take a note of it. They adjust it for next year to make sure it doesn't go wrong, and it speeds up every year. So it's a constant evolution of learning something new every year in my mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you could give a word of advice to another destination, another brand about the holidays, what would that be?
Sum it up in a word, 2 words, be honest. I think it has to be an honest activation. Someone's got to have some passion behind it, and it's got to be guest-centered. I think the reason why we're so successful in what we do is the team that's behind this is passionate about it, loves doing it, and it's putting the guest first. Yeah. Yes, it builds the atmosphere. There's no corner of the building that's untouched, but we love it because we know the guests love it as well. Yeah. And I think it's that honesty that comes through.
I love it, being guest-centric. That is kind of behind what we do all year round here at Mall of America. It's part of who we are.
Yeah, and it maybe seem like a buzzy or an easy answer, but I think that's the secret to the success, so that we put the guests in the situation first. How are they going to perceive it and engage with it? And that's what we let lead us.
And before we close out, I'm just going to ask a couple of quick questions, personal questions of you guys. So first is childhood.
Did you have one?
Best gift you ever...
I was born 52 years old.
Best gift you ever received as a child? Favorite gift?
Probably the old school metal Tonka truck, the big yellow dump
one.
truck.
Yep.
Love it.
Matter of fact, I still have it, and I still have the red Tonka fire truck.
Oh, I love it. Cool.
They're in my basement. They're not complete, but they're there.
And the one gift you always wanted as a child, didn't receive?
I'm not going to lie to you. I honestly think I always got. I don't want to sound like I was a spoiled brat kid, but I think I don't think I ever really wanted for more than my parents could provide. That's awesome. I feel like I always got everything I wanted.
That's awesome.
If I maybe didn't get it that year, maybe it was another year.
Yep.
Or maybe I just saved my pennies and got it myself, and later on. So
that's cool. I love it. Your favorite gift you received as a child?
Favorite gift I received as a child was probably, there was a G.I. Joe, the bad guys were Cobra, and they had a hydrofoil. It was a ship.
I remember that.
That was pretty awesome. I really liked that. I remember being really excited about that as a kid.
And the one gift you didn't receive, was there one?
Same. G.I. Joe came out with an aircraft carrier, the USS Flag.
Wow.
6 foot long, giant piece.
Wow.
I mean, it was awesome. It was a sight to behold. And I did not get it, but my Uncle Justin, who's a year younger than me, got that thing and wouldn't let us play with it, which was disappointing.
That's even worse.
My dad...
He taunted you.
Yeah, my dad and his dad spent probably a full day putting the decals on that thing because it was so huge. That was the one that got away.
Tortured childhood.
That's right.
Final question. Best gift as an adult?
Years ago, I got into target shooting quite a bit when my son was in the trap shooting league at school. And a lot of us did that, had kids the same age. And I fell in love with a particular shotgun. And it was something I would never have bought for myself, just because I'm a little frugal. I don't tend to spend money on things I don't need. And a good friend of mine told my wife the gun that I was looking at. And when I woke up on Christmas morning, that gun was sitting under the tree. And it's honestly the only time I've shed a tear on Christmas morning in my whole life.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
So you don't like to spend money on things you don't need, like refrigerators?
Like refrigerators.
Okay, just an inside question there. And your favorite gift as an adult?
Favorite gift as an adult was a family gift for us, for our family. My wife and son and I, we got the Disney Vacation Club for ourselves. And unlike you,
you use the hell out of it.
We are frivolous. I will spend. I don't know how long I'm here. I'm going to have a good time, but that Disney
and what's
Vacation
your home
Club.
at Disney?
We're Polynesian Resort as our home resort.
And the favorite bar there?
That is going to be Trader Sam's.
Just gotta say.
We have a blast. Have an absolute blast.
Just got to say. John, we're really grateful and thank you for being here, for being a special guest today, and for everything you and your team do to make the holidays so special at Mall of America. Chris, as always, thank you for bringing your stories and your expertise. You guys are awesome. It's coming.
It is. It's coming. The cold weather's here. It's going to rain and snow this week. We're getting ready for it.
It's awesome. And thank you, everyone, for joining us again for so much more. We look forward to another conversation next week.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of So Much More. If you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you find your favorites, including Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. And you can also watch a video cast on YouTube. Go to podcast.mallofamerica.com to leave a review, ask a question, or give us an idea for the show. Until next time, thanks for listening. So Much More is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for the city of Bloomington, Minnesota. Before your next trip to Mall of America, visit bloomingtonmn.org for answers to all your travel questions, deals and packages for hotel stays, and so much more.